Hey friends, I may be on vacation, but the news doesn't stop and neither do the receipts. So let's dive into two major headlines that should kick your week into high gear. First, CIA Director John Ratcliffe is naming names and pointing fingers at Clinton, Brennan, and Comey as evidence mounts that they may have orchestrated the infamous 2016 hoax. Today's focus? A specific handwritten note that could be the smoking gun. And while the media was too busy having a meltdown over President Trump playing a round of golf, he was busy closing a massive trade deal with the EU because that's what real leadership looks like. If you're not tired of winning, hit that like button for me. And don't forget to subscribe if you're new here. All right, let's get into it. CIA Director Ratcliffe is not mincing words. I know. Many of you are rightfully frustrated by all the talk and zero action. But in my view, this may be the strongest legal shot yet at holding Democrat power players accountable for their carefully crafted attempt to deceive the American public and derail a presidency. Here's Ratcliffe with the overview.
In the summer of 2016, U.S. intelligence intercepted Russian intelligence talking about a Hillary Clinton plan to falsely accuse Donald Trump of Russia collusion, to vilify him and smear him with what would become known infamously as the Steele dossier. And Maria, this intelligence was so explosive that John Brennan briefed President Obama, Vice President Biden, Jim Clapper, James Comey, the entire national security team, telling them about this Hillary Clinton plan.
So Russia knew about this scheme, and in 2020, Ratcliffe found Brennan's handwritten notes confirming it. In that briefing with Obama, Brennan literally wrote down that Russia was aware of Clinton's plot to tie Trump to Russia. That's not speculation, that's documentation. Now, many of the statute of limitations have expired, being that this is an event that dates back 10 years. However, John Brennan and Hillary Clinton, they both testified to Congress within the past 5 years, and that may not be the only way to breathe life back into this case. Watch this.
I don't think statute of limitations are going to impact, because in a conspiracy, Maria, the statute of limitation doesn't start to run until the last act in furtherance of that conspiracy. And Maria, part of why this is so important is the people behind this are still furthering the conspiracy. They're refusing to admit or acknowledge what they did in 2016 and what they did in 2020 was wrong. And so I think that's why this is so important and why I'm excited about what the American people will see very shortly and what's to continue to come.
Translation? They may have overplayed their hand, and now they're stuck holding it. Trump's former impeachment attorney even suggests that if this evidence holds up, Brennan, Clapper, and company, they could all be facing charges like seditious conspiracy and obstruction of justice.
If the evidence really shows what is being talked about now, and it can be proven, then certainly those others could be charged with seditious conspiracy under 18 U.S.C. 2384, undermining our government, undermining the will of the voters, certainly obstruction of justice, certainly perjury. They'd all be entitled to the presumption of innocence, but those are the kinds of charges that could be brought.
But instead of reckoning with this, the Democrats, true to form, pivoted. They went from Russia to the laptop to Epstein. Here's NBC's Kristen Welker practically jumping out of her seat to defend Obama.
Senator, as you know, former President Obama has weighed in through a spokesperson. He says that's just patently false. I actually spoke to Susan Miller, who's a former senior CIA officer who helped oversee the 2017 intelligence assessment on Russian interference. She says it's completely false that Obama or anyone else asked them to change or sway their investigation. She says she says, and she's a Republican, says they all would have quit if that had happened. Senator, are you trying to rewrite history to distract from the Epstein matter, Senator?
No, I'm trying to let you know and the media know that we found something we didn't know before. At the end of the day, I'm not calling for a prosecution against President Obama for treason, but I am calling for an investigation. I don't like your analysis. Russia wasn't involved here in 2016.
Senator, you're saying there's something new. This report goes back to 2020. It's 5 years old. There's actually nothing new in this report and nothing that changes any conclusion. But I want to talk about Gaza.
Turned over is new to me.
Senator,
it's new to me.
But Senator,
you're trying to sweep this stuff under the rug, and that's not right.
No, Kristen, we're trying to correct the record with facts. What's really hysterical here is how hard they're trying to spin this like it's still 2017. And because they don't have any credible argument, they just deflect. And then there's the golf drama. Liberals lost their minds over Trump's swinging clubs in Scotland while they say America suffers. Here's what one user posted. This brainwashed individual literally wrote, quote, "Reminder, while America is struggling under skyrocketing prices that he promised to lower, brought on by his own asinine tariffs, Trump is off golfing in Scotland. And that lazy, grifting, word I will not repeat, bum, is playing on the taxpayer dime." Now, over at CNN, they were also obsessing over the president playing golf. And this all while he was making a historic deal, which is ironic because they completely ignored Biden's weekly visits to the beach.
President Trump is back on the golf course here in Scotland this morning at Turnberry. He'll be playing golf for a couple hours before he is heading into a very important and critical meeting with the chief of the European Commission.
And what do you know? Minutes after the liberals were melting down, writing ridiculous things, the president closed a massive tariff deal with the EU.
We are agreeing that the tariff straight across for automobiles and everything else will be a straight across tariff of 15%. We have the opening up of all of the European countries, which I think I could say were essentially closed. I mean, you weren't exactly taking our autos, you weren't exactly taking our agriculture. They're going to be purchasing hundreds of billions of dollars worth of military equipment. Very important, they're going to purchase $750 billion worth of energy. So that's going to be great. And $600 billion worth of investments into the United States over and above what they have. So, and I think that basically concludes the deal.
This is a landmark deal. 0% on U.S. goods. The EU is going to buy hundreds of billions worth of military gear. They will make $600 billion in U.S. investments and buy $750 billion worth of U.S. energy. That's the difference between golf and golf with results. EU's leader even complimenting the president for his negotiating skills.
I want to thank President Trump personally for his personal commitment and leadership to achieve this breakthrough. He's a tough negotiator, but he is also a deal maker.
In case any of you are wondering how these deals are working out for the U.S., here's Scott Besson proving President Trump's economic policies are actually working.
We had the first June budget surplus since 2015 last month. We reported it this month, and so we are taking in substantial income. So President Trump is creating this leverage by saying, if you don't want to negotiate with me, I've sent you a letter with a high rate. Have at the high rate, or come and negotiate in better fashion.
While Trump keeps on winning, the Democrats are still throwing spaghetti at the wall, hoping something will stick. Here's California Governor Gavin Newsom doing his best worried uncle routine.
And more evidence every single day. He's lost a step. This is not the same Trump 1.0. This is something's off, increasingly off, and he's unmoored in ways even by Trump standards I haven't seen. I don't want to overstate this moment, but you can't understate this. Something ain't right, as they say.
Funny, because that's what Californians say about you. And here's proof. A new study shows that California's $20 fast food minimum wage law has already cost 18,000 jobs since just April. Not to mention the housing crisis that is so bad that U-Haul literally ran out of trucks. Then there's the sky-high crime in drug-infested cities and a net exodus of middle-class families fleeing for red states, taking their businesses, tax dollars, and futures with them. If that's progress, I'd hate to see failure. Now listen up, I'm back in studio on Wednesday, so I will have daily updates for you then. But coming up next, in the meantime, check this one out. Sanctuary city mayors are under fire as Tom Homan and Kristi Noem lay down the law. Wait until you hear the promise Homan is now making to LA's Mayor Karen Bass. It is about to get wild. Go ahead, click on that video now, and I'll see you over there. Thanks for watching.